Okay, so that was the penultimate game of the stream. Schwiertz versus Report. This is another American outplaying a non-American and then no technique. Terrible. I mean, it was sort of like when Karen and I were going out before we were married. I mean, I outplayed her everywhere in the dating game, but then I had no technique, so that didn't work out at the beginning. Okay, so he played the London. Now this was funny on the Crush Hess stream. They were discussing C4, and this was the only line they were discussing. And they said, yeah, don't play this with white. It doesn't matter what the engine says. It doesn't matter what Magnus does. Don't ever play King E2. And that's, okay, that's wrong for more than one reason. White is better here. But the main reason it's wrong is Queen takes B1 is better. This is my game with Magnus. And then here, and I mean, people today think White's just better here. Because White has two bishops, and I can play bishop here and here, and, you know, it's no problem. And after I lost to Magnus, there was a game in this position. Magnus played Wesley So, maybe even more than one game. Wesley played better than I did, but I know he lost one of the games. Anyway, he didn't play C4. He played bishop D3, and they were praising Schwiertz for playing bishop D3 and not C4. C4 terrible. Yeah, C4 is fine. Misspelling Groningen. Queen takes B1 was Feingold. Feingold. What color were you? Were you white or black? I don't even know. Were you white? Okay. Spence, you should go to karaoke tonight. I think I'm gonna surprise Karen and go. Have a club soda, choke on my rage from all the smoke. All right. So white played for no advantage, and he did his job. Yeah, this is completely equal for black. Totally equal. Okay. Now, the problem with Report, if he has a problem, this is a good thing and a bad thing, is he never wants to draw. And especially when he's paired down. He's playing a low-rated player. So here, he's just completely equal, but he wants the game to be totally insane because he doesn't want to draw. And by doing that, he risks losing. White didn't do anything wrong, and now Report just plays badly. I mean, almost on purpose. Sort of like, okay, get an advantage so I can beat you. Otherwise, it's going to be really boring. They're going to trade a lot of things. White's this much better, and Report's going to hold. He doesn't want that. So he plays Queen B8, which is, you know, weird, but all right. And Bishop H5 is weird, just not to trade pieces. H6, takes, and then he takes with the G pawn because he's Report. I mean, I would barely consider taking with a G pawn. Barely. And the engine wants to take this. And it also says bishop takes a knight here is fine. Probably after knight here, maybe the engine is a little worried about that. Probably not. So anyway, that's all about equal opposite bishops. Very boring position. And he's like, no, I want some action. Okay. And man, it's hard to make jokes when you can't remember people's names. Finally, I got it. Anyway, they showed this when he was preparing for the game. He actually knew this position. He said in an interview, and his coach, his second, was Alicia Bridges. Is that her name? And he was like, should I take with the knight? And she said, no, take this way. And he said, why? And she said, I want some action. I want to live. And he was like, all right. Man, complicated joke. Even I didn't get it. Enrique Mecking. Well, you didn't spell Mecking wrong. You didn't put a G at the end. But I still haven't heard of him. Yeah. Wish the setup was longer? That's what Karen said. Yeah. Spelled Fisher wrong. Terrible. Okay. Bishop E2, always the most passive move. I don't know why. Bishop E2 is okay, but it's unnecessary. Okay, Rook G8, Knight D2, passive again. Still good. White's better. Yeah, he wants to actually put his king here and keep his rook in front of it so he's not castling queenside and getting mated. Yeah, I mean, Schwiertz is like not playing the most incisive way to get a winning position. He's just like playing really boring and hoping these bad pawn structure loses. Okay, but he still has a big advantage. I mean, so I can't really complain too much. Now, e4 is a brilliant pawn sacrifice. Bam. The reason it's brilliant is this is the worst move in chess history because knight d6 check is coming. So after here, black resigns. Resigns is the best move. The engine even says so. Now you're losing your queen. Knight d6 check is winning your queen. This is the only safe square. So ridiculous to take the d4 pawn. Chumwick subscribed. Jokes and spaghetti, spaghetti. Good Chappelle Show reference. You taught with Susan and Dimitri G. I still remember that class. It was amazing. I am amazing. That's true. Yeah. All right. So king f8. Always play king f8. Takes. I mean, so white's just clearly better here. And I don't understand why Schwiertz and Shankland and Zhang, or Xiong, but I won't call him that because when they have these nice advantages where there's a two-result game, they make it look like it's a one-result game. It's like if Magnus was white here, he would beat everybody all day. And if Wesley was white and he wanted to win, which he doesn't, he would beat everybody all day. And if Fabi was in good form, he would. But these American guys who are second tier, they never win these positions when they're paired up. Never. They're playing me, they'd win 100 out of 100. But when they're playing somebody tough, nothing. They got nothing. It's infuriating. They can't do anything. And he always plays like the most boring passive move. He never does anything, even slightly aggressive. Yeah, it's always like boring. Like the engine wants him to play b4 and gain some space. Yeah. And basically, Rapport's egging him on. He's like, come on, try to beat me so I can win. That doesn't work with Schwiertz. Yeah. Plays b4 when it's not good. Queen g5 is like equal, but what Rapport wants to win. He knows he's worse, but he's like, come on, do something so I can win. And then Consuela, who's Darius's coach, said, no. Yeah, Queen f4 is terrible. Yeah, d5 is the winning attempt. Then you could take on a7. All these pawns are hanging. This is pinned. But he just, he has to play the most safe move. Because d5, the complications, so he doesn't want that. I mean, if Rapport's playing an engine, the engine just runs over him and wins. And these Americans who are 2,700 to 2,750, they just, I can never win because Rapport's too good. The Queen f4 is a ridiculous move. e5 is a crazy move. Queen g5 is just a dead draw. Queen g5 equal. But Rapport doesn't want to draw. So he's like playing to lose. Yeah, he could actually take the two rooks here, but it's pretty bad for black. Yeah, because he's a pawn down. This is the worst pawn structure ever. Probably white's winning. Probably. The rooks aren't coordinated well. Okay. So he just took that, attacking the queen. Always the most passive move. Rook d4, again playing for a win, playing a collinear move. Okay, and then queen takes h3. This is fine for white. White's still much better. Much better. And then he just doesn't want to win. Queen c3 is good. Queen e3 is not very good. It's okay. e5 is good. And he trades queens into a dead drawn rook and pawn ending. Yeah. I mean, any move is better than what he did. The engine wants to play rook f4. And I guess he was afraid of h4, but then e6 and g4 are both good. You can't play rook takes because your rook is defending your queen. So now you lose. Yeah, and this loses to this, obviously, and frankly. And frankly, man, I can't make any joke I want to make now. Jesus. All right, never mind. Yeah, Yeah, now if you take, I can check, and you know, white's winning here. Black's king is frankly ridiculous. But the thing is, rook f4 requires precise calculation, and it's interesting, and he just never did that. He just played like a baby. Yeah, he didn't even try to win. I don't understand. Most people try to win, but he's like, nah. Then they found a funny repetition. I mean, one thing is the top players in the world are really good at making worse positions a draw. That's one thing. That's why Svidler drew, Rapport drew, and Mamedyarov drew, and Dominguez drew from positions that weren't good because they're top and they figure out how to draw. But, you know, the Americans, Caruana's better, can't win. Shanklin's winning, can't win. He's winning in the final position. Jeffrey has a big advantage. Sweerts has a big advantage. And they make it look like they don't have an advantage. They make it look like it was a boring draw when their opponents were suffering, but they didn't make them suffer very much. It's like if I'm playing. So, I mean, this is, you know, like if Nepomniachtchi and Carlsen were over here, they'd be winning these positions. Terrible.